everybody. Welcome, 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 welcome to another episode of Freedom Friday. This is your girl, Miss Q, aka Apostle Q, BKA Quinetta Thomas, your mind whisperer, president and CEO of Diamonds in the Rough, Diamond Dynasty, Diamond Graphics, and now your girl is certified. You hear me? I am officially a certified life coach, and there's so much more to come. I want to thank you all for being a part of our podcast tonight. We are going to divulge in some very interesting, groundbreaking information tonight. Trust me, what I'm telling you, okay? I need you to get 5 people in here. If you can sense my mood, I'm not as goofy as I usually am. I'm not kicking a bobo like I usually do because tonight is, I feel, is a very serious topic, and I don't want to take away from it by joking too much or doing too much. So please do me a favor. Tag 5 people, okay? If you know anybody that needs help, I need you to tag their name right now. If you know anybody that needs to be encouraged, I need you to tag them right now. If you know anybody that is questioning themselves, questioning their process, questioning anything that they're experiencing, okay? If there's signs of depression, if there's signs of hopelessness, I need you to tag them right now because what we're getting ready to share could literally save their lives. All right, y'all. But before we do that, I have to do my due diligence and welcome you all one more time. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you can be reminded every single time we go live. All right, y'all. So the podcast title for tonight is Laugh now, cry later. Laugh now, cry later. I know they be wondering when she be creating these titles, what does she be thinking? Don't worry, just wait for it. Just wait for it, it's coming. Also, if you want to be interviewed on Freedom Friday, please send your submissions to DITRINTL Corp at gmail.com. Otherwise, you could just post it in the comments or you can send me an inbox or a DM because I do check my messages and I do check my comments. All right, y'all. I also got to give a major, major shout out to my brothers, Jacob Anderson, Eddie Jones, 95 South Podcast, Pebbles, Tamika, 810 Studios. You guys, listen, we about to be international, y'all, okay? It's what you don't know. All right, there's some things going on in the background, and we literally about to be international. I'm talking about countries, okay? Countries. God is doing a thing. And I also want to acknowledge really, really, I promise you I ain't gonna take no long. I want to acknowledge really, really quickly the last 2 weeks have been super super busy, you all. That's why I haven't really been live like I wanted to, but God has been doing so much in my personal life. I have been honored to be able to sing background for Donnie McClurkin, excuse me, Donnie McClurkin. Last Not last week but the week before last, I was honored and it was such a pleasure. And then the following week I was actually the keynote speaker at an amazing event called Untrapped. Major shout out to LaCandice Reed, LaCandice Global. So it has been busy. There's so much going on. God is doing so much, and I'm saying all this to say I was where you were. I once was where you are. Let me say it that way. I was once where you are. I was depressed. I was suicidal. By the way, I'm going to say this now, trigger warning. Okay, this entire conversation is a trigger warning. I was depressed. I was suicidal. I was hopeless. I was on medication. I was going through so much and I could not see my way out. But God is so good. And because I kept the faith and I kept moving, and even when I tried to give up, He loved me so much that He wouldn't allow me to. And now, when I take a look at my life and I see what God is doing, I'm grateful that He intercepted the plans that I have to get out of here. Okay? Because I was out of here, y'all. I'm so serious. But I'm so glad that He intercepted my plans because He had greater plans. And because it was so dark, I couldn't see what those plans were. But I just want to encourage somebody tonight, please. I don't care what you're going through. I don't care how. And mind you, even with all that God has done in my life, I still have tests. I still have, I still go through stuff on a daily basis. And the stuff that I divvy to you all every week is the same stuff that I got to use personally, okay, in my own life. So I'm no better than anybody that's watching. The difference between me and you is that God gave me this mission. What's your mission? All right. I ain't gonna start preaching. You all, I have beside me this amazing gentleman over here to my
What?
side who right here, him him right here. He is an amazing gentleman. He really, really is. Because to do all that he does, it takes something. Okay. It takes something. Patrick Solomon, y'all, really, really quickly. He is our guest on Freedom Friday this week. He is a mental health counselor. This is why I want y'all to tag 5 people, okay? I need y'all to get some folks in here because y'all might get some help on tonight, okay? He is a mental health counselor. He is a behavioral specialist. He is an entertainment executive. And he's also a community advocate. And he's also a mental health advocate. All right, y'all. Patrick Solomon is a licensed professional counselor associate in Kentucky. He received his bachelor's in psychology and master's in counseling from Western Kentucky University. Patrick has over 30 years working in mental. Lord, I got to pause right now. I've only been doing this since 2015. And by God, how have you done this for 30 years, sir?
Uh, 20-year-old junior in Western Kentucky University took a job at a place called Panorama, which was a mental boarding home for people who were developmentally delayed, and been doing it in some form ever since.
Wow. God bless you. God, it takes a special person. You hear me? It takes a special person to want to go into the field of mental health. Let me tell you. Let me proceed. Hold on. I keep getting distracted. Y'all pray for me. Pray that I get the the anointing of the focus. Praise God. All right. So Patrick has over 30 years working in mental health and substance abuse fields. Patrick also provides continuing education, presentations on such topics as bullying, cultural diversity, love, drugs, and hip hop, common childhood psychiatric illnesses, and counseling law. In addition to his mental health work, Patrick has spent the last 13 years in the music industry as an artist manager. His current clients include Big V, formerly of the group Nappy Roots. I got to stop and say one time for my dog, Big V. Hey, V, if you're watching, you know I got much love for you. I remember when you were on my show previously, and I still watch it to this day, just to reminisce. And I was really interviewing Big V, but anyway, we're gonna keep it moving. All right, so the productive duo king of the beats and DJ Duddy Laundry. I hope I said that correctly.
You did.
He has also served as music supervisor on the independent films The Business of Christmas and 45 Seconds. I need somebody to put some love in the chats on tonight. I got to clap. First of all, if we don't put no love in this chat, other than the fact that he has been in the mental health field for 30 years, I listen, that alone is an accomplishment that is worthy of praise because people don't understand what it takes for a regular person that has regular issues of their own to have to dive into somebody else's life, literally put whatever they got going on to the side and dive into someone else's life in order to help them. Okay. So for you to have done that for 30 years on top of everything else you've done, sir, I take my hat off to you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. You have the floor if you want to say anything to open up. The floor is definitely yours.
Okay. Well, again, I thank you for having me on. In addition to the other stuff, most importantly, from the other things that you mentioned. I'm a child of God first,
Yes.
a husband and a father, a brother, and hopefully a good friend to people. Um, and it's not trying to sound funny, but like when it comes to the whole mental health thing, I didn't choose the game; the game chose me.
You better talk.
you know,
You better talk.
I mean, if you'd asked me when I was coming out of high school and everything, like, would I be doing this at all? Like, oh no! Like
Right.
in my hometown where I grew up, which is like an hour from where I live now, the state hospital was there. Um, and I don't know if you know much about many state hospitals, but you kind of get the hardest of cases there. And I remember, as a kid sitting out when we moved from well, after we moved from the projects to by the cemetery, and then we moved to First Street. Watching, you could watch on your porch. There would be like 85, 95 degrees outside, and you'll see somebody walking down the street with like two pair of pants on and like three sweaters. And sure enough,
Wow.
later you see a sheriff car go by, and when they come back, they got them. They left the hospital without supposedly leaving the hospital, so they had to
Right.
catch them and take them back. Um, so it was an interesting journey for me to wind up doing what I'm doing. But I thank God for
Wow.
what I do.
So, other than that, what was the key component? Like, what was that thing? What was that spark that made you decide this is my life purpose?
Um, Again, it just kind of happened. I found myself when the more I worked in the field, the more I enjoyed it. And then one time I decided I'm getting away from mental health, so I took a job as a academic advisor and counselor at our local community college. And the very first student I got to help out was a student that was court ordered to go to college because she had killed her husband, but he was being
Wow.
domestically violent to her. And I'm sitting there going, okay, God, I get it. I'm not going to be able to get away from this. I give. And when you finally say I give, then he showed you what else you're supposed to do.
Yes, 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 yes. And how do you maintain yourself? Like, how do you, and I'm asking you for me. I'm not even asking these questions for anybody else. I'm asking you this for myself, okay? Because like, how do you maintain yourself? Like, how do you stay afloat and continue to function in your field and not quit and not say I don't want to do this anymore and not allow the day-to-day hustle and bustle of life to force you to just want to throw it all away.
Well, for me, a lot of it is because I work with youth. And I realized in my life, I was supposed to be a statistic. I'm an adopted child into a single parent home that grew up in the
Wow.
project for most of my formidable years. And that stat doesn't run well for that person. You usually
Right.
can't even get an adopted kid into a single parent home, let alone anything happen good for them. But God came into my life when I was about 11 because I'd already started down the path of some wrong things. Like I have my sister's 9 years older than me, so weed was already a thing I had started. I liked alcohol as a little bitty kid. I used to go around if my mom had a house party when the adults went to sleep. I'd go around and empty their drinks.
Wow.
And there was sometimes they would let me get drunk and do the James Brown dance and the Michael Jackson dance for
Uh-huh.
them.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Uh-huh.
but I just realized that 11 was a really formidable year for me because that was the first time I saw a man get killed.
My
Um,
God.
it was
At 11?
yeah, Fourth of July
Wow.
weekend. A bunch of those kids was outside. Some older teenagers and people in their early 20s was upstairs in another apartment building, drinking, smoking weed, and gambling. And those three don't mix. And
You're right
sure
about it.
enough, they got in an argument. One runs outside, the other run outside behind him and blows him away. You know, I use that a lot when I talk to my adolescents, especially those people on the streets. Like, man, I don't care if I die. So, man, I have never seen a man die that didn't try to take another breath.
My God.
Because I sit there and watch that man. Every time he would try to get air, the blood would gush out.
Wow.
Now, you're talking about over 40 years ago, and I can still see it vividly.
I know what you mean.
So at that point, I was like, okay, if this is what this stuff does to you, I want no part of it. So I quit fooling with alcohol. I quit fooling with weed ever since then. Now I understand it has its medicinal purposes. I part owner of a CBD store with Big B, but I'm talking about the point where people were lacing their weed and everything else, wetting it up,
And
and
abusing it.
yeah, and saying
Yeah.
doing everything but turning to God. And about that time, also God started sending certain people in my life. I joined church. My mom didn't make me. It was one of those things. She was a mother that said, "That's between you and God. I'll take you
Right.
there, but I can't make you join." And the pastor that was there gave us guys as we went into our young teenage years stuff to do. He would even let us clean the church to earn money. There was one deacon by the name of Russell Seabury that will always be special to me because Russell would have parties for us, so he would know what we were doing. He would know that we wouldn't be
Wow.
drinking, we wouldn't be trying to procreate and stuff like that. Yeah,
Right.
but
Being grown.
yeah, but he took that time out and would do those things. And then as I hit high school, even the older cats in my neighborhood, you always hear about older dudes trying to turn young dudes over on the block and stuff like that. But that wasn't the older cats in my neighborhood. The older teens and early 20s, like, yo, man, you can't get into this. Don't do this, blah, blah, blah. Even when some of my, like I ran track and I started like in the sixth grade running with the high schoolers.
Hmm.
And I remember one high schooler, Barry Baker in particular, Barry's about 4 or 5 years older than me. He goes, "Hey, take advantage of this because this time passes quick. And remember what you're doing. You're doing it for you, not someone else.
Yes.
And remember that." And I passed that on to high schools. I said, "Look, those 4 years seem long, but it goes fast because
I'm
it does."
telling you.
And then, like I said, God just sent good people in my life, good men in my life. Even if we weren't really closely connected, just for me to see an example. Because without my father around, I like, okay, what do I do? And I tell kids sometimes the best thing you can learn from your absent parent is to be there. Don't make your
You
child
better believe
feel
it.
that you felt. You can learn from their mistakes. Vicarious learning can be very real. I always use the example of, like, if I walk into a pile of dog duty and go, "Man, that's dog poop," you shouldn't have to step in and go, "Squish, squish, squish." Yeah, it is. You shouldn't have to do that. You should know how to go around it. And we
Right.
can't, and that's a lost art of teaching people how to identify things before you get to it and how to navigate around it. So having the opportunity to give back to young men and women what was given to me is what keeps me going.
Wow. 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 Okay, so the title for tonight's podcast, of course, is Laugh Not Cry Later. And the reason why I named it this is because I'm starting to notice more now than ever that there are people that are taking their own lives.
Hmm.
And you wouldn't think that they would be the ones to do something like that. Why? Because when you see them on the surface, they're happy, they're productive, they're successful, they're wealthy. Their life's mission is to make other people laugh and feel good. They
Hmm.
walk around here in church talking about bless the Lord, I am blessed and highly favored. Okay, they're always giving, they're always pouring, they're always doing, and they always got a smile on their face. They always got a smile on their face. Everything is always all right. Everything is always okay. But when the lights go out, when they got to go home, and the world is turned off, and for those that are public figures, the roar of the crowd is no longer present, and it's just that person and God. They're suffering silently.
Hmm.
They're suffering, and I'm telling you because I know. I know. Okay, when it's just you and you got to stare at that ceiling, and everything that you've been trying to suppress comes to the surface and there's nothing you can do about it, and then you start sinking into deep depression. I'm talking about deep depression. Laugh now, cry later.
Yeah.
And I want us to really dive into this conversation because I really want to express the importance of being authentic in who you are. And I don't mean just being authentic in when you're producing or when you're being successful or when you're in your niche. Like, I want you to be authentic in who you are as a person overall. Overall, outside of the strong suit that you put on before you walk out the door. I'm talking about it's time for us to begin to face that person that we look at every day before we leave that front door.
Yeah.
It's time for us to be real about what's going on the inside of us. Why? Because if we don't, we may laugh now, but we're going to cry later. What am I
Yeah.
trying to say? As long as you are not honest about who you are, what you're feeling, what you're going through, and you just let it sit, it just festers and it festers and it festers until one day it comes out the wrong way.
Hmm.
I am a living witness. I know what I'm talking about. I know what I'm talking about. So I want you all, whoever is watching this, to take heed to what is being said tonight, to what is being said tonight. If there are any homework assignments or any tools that are given, I beseech you, like the words say. I beseech you to please. I will beg you if I have to, because this is life and death. See, I don't play with stuff like this. This already cost me a life. You understand what I'm saying? So for me, this is literally life and death. So I don't mind begging you for your own life, for your own sake, to listen to what's being said, to take heed to what's being said, and to apply what's being said. Why? Because it works. I'm telling you, I'm a living witness. If I could give, I say this every time, if I could give you a peek into my past, all you got to do is talk to some people that knew me for real. They'll tell you Q was out there, like for real. Okay. And for God to turn my life around the way he did, it wasn't just spiritual. Hear me, y'all. Y'all that are stuck in the four walls of the church. There's nothing wrong with going to church.
Nope.
But sometimes after they lay hands and pour oil, you need maintenance. Why? Because once all that stuff is extracted from you, how are you supposed to function after that? When you're accustomed to being one way.
Not to cut you off, perfect
Yes,
example is when, like, you look what happened with the disciples. Once, they thought Jesus was dead, they went back and started to fish again. They went back to what they knew. Because if you're
yes,
not careful, you go back to what you know, and sometimes what you know is not very good for you at all. You know,
absolutely.
and you
Absolutely.
had mentioned before that when you have an identity, whatever the identity is, and you forfeit, you start to give up that identity. There's an emptiness that comes with that. There's a um, I guess almost a fond memory of even the bad things. People ask about our youth nowadays, what's wrong with them? I said, because they don't have an identity. We've given them the identity of we thugs, we rough, blah, blah, blah. And some identity is better than no identity, so they put it on and try to make it the suit fit, even though it
Yes,
doesn't fit us. You know,
yes.
and don't even realize they're messed up. I'll use myself for example. When we moved up here to Bowling Green, where Big V is from, um, I took a job at a psychiatric hospital up here at the time, doing business development and stuff. And there was a sort of gang type killing that was up here. Um, a family got killed by supposedly like an Asian gang or something. I'm not
Oh,
sure if they were
wow.
actually a gang or whatever. But I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the people in the hospital, and I'm like, why are y'all tripping? Somebody got shot. What's the big deal? And then I started to do some reflection. I'm like, oh, they're not messed up. I am. Because
My
my little
God.
town I come from has so many violent murders and stuff since I was a kid that it was something that it wasn't a big deal if somebody got killed.
Desensitized.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah,
a terrible
yeah.
place to be. You know.
Yes,
So yeah, the wrong can become right to you if you're not careful.
absolutely.
And then when you start to realize, okay, this no longer fits, and you don't know what fits, like you said, despair can open up on you because you're
My
like, oh, I
God.
don't fit anywhere then, or we suppress the monsters of the past sometimes.
Come on. Now you
And
talking.
when that's why you got to be careful how you go. And if even within the ministry, if you're ministering to somebody, don't open up a can of worms that you're not prepared to help that person resolve. Or at least can refer them to somebody that can resolve. Because you leave those person with those suppressed memories, and they get overwhelmed. All of a sudden, suicide and stuff like that starts to seem like a real way out.
Absolutely.
So when you were talking about how deep it can go, people will be surprised some of the things the people who wear that smile, like you said, um, and you think, oh, they're fine. That would never happen to that does because that smile. Smokey Robinson said, "Don't let my glad expression give you the wrong impression. Really, I'm sad." From the song
My
"Tears on
Lord.
Fire."
My
And a lot of
Lord.
people. That's why you look at a lot of our comedians. The best actors, the best person to make you laugh is the person who's depressed because they've learned to fake it so long. And like I said, I'm a little older, so I remember like Freddie Prince. He was a Latino comedian.
Hmm.
Had one of the most successful shows on the time in the late '70s called Chico and the Man. Was on top of the world, and he killed himself
Wow.
because all the things the world had to offer him, they couldn't offer him peace.
My
inner
God.
peace.
My God.
You know,
But there's something. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
or Twitch from the Ellen Show. You know,
Yes.
for a more modern example, here's a guy who he was jamming all the time, made people laugh, smile, and like that, he took his own life, and no one had any idea that he was at that point of despair.
Yes. No idea. Because every time you saw him, what was he doing? He was laughing.
Yeah,
He was laughing. But nobody knows when he went home what he was really going through. And that's the thing because we don't especially us. we
yeah,
don't we don't understand the power of expression because we were taught not to express. We were taught
exactly.
shut up, keep it moving. Like, we weren't you're seen and not heard, or you're a child. What could you possibly be going through? And because we grow up that way, we adopt that attitude and we go throughout life with that same concept of let me just chuck it up. Let me just keep it moving. I'm not gonna deal with it. I'm not gonna think about it. I'm not gonna feel it. And to me, not being able to feel is so dangerous. Why?
Yes,
Because the way you feel is going to tell you what you're thinking.
yes.
What you're thinking is directly connected to how you feel. I'm telling you.
As a man thinketh, so is he.
So is he. Come on, Bishop, you better preach it here today.
No, I mean, I, my wife would tell you. I told her from the time I was like a junior in college or whatever, especially when I was in grad school. She said, "What you learn?" She would ask me something. "What you learned today?" I like nothing. She'll look at me funny. I said, "Look, I'm gonna tell you this." I said, "Everything they're trying to teach me theory wise, I already know these theories. They're in the Bible." I said, "They
Right.
put man's name assigned to it, but God will teach you everything you know in His need to know in His Word." Cognitive behavioral therapy. If you change the
Mm,
schematics and stuff in your mind, you can change the way you react and stuff. As a man thinks,
mm.
so is he. Carl Rogers, positive regard for all humankind and all that. Love thy neighbor as I love thyself,
My.
and so on and so on. The sum of the parts is greater than the sum of the parts. The sum of the whole is greater than the parts. All those different theories, they're just God's word. That
Yes.
somebody's trying to take ownership of. But like
Yes.
you were saying, just not knowing when people are hurting, and a lot of times we're taught like you said that we're supposed to cover up, and sometimes for a good reason. If you go back if you go in the 50s, I'm not that old, but I know enough about history that if you were a 50-year-old black male, you could look at a person across the street because they happen to be white. You, especially here in the South, you liable to be lynched.
Mm.
You couldn't show the anger that you had because if you did, you might not made it home to your family that night, and that family needed you.
Wow.
So you got to think of we teach our kids from a trauma perspective because the trauma was real danger
Passed
though. It
down.
wasn't made
Right.
up. It was real.
Right. Right.
And,
Wow. That's so deep.
and it hadn't gone away because no offense, but in your home state, you got a guy over there who's tripping. You're gonna tell me that my ancestors learned special skills from being a slave. Let's see, have you visited Africa? There's cities over there that existed long before this country did. We know how to work in iron and steel and all that stuff. We did that already. And
Mhm.
honestly, we weren't slaves. We were kidnapped victims, murder victims, rape victims in slavery, if we want to be honest about it. And
Yes.
and every few certain amount of years, it didn't go away. It changed its form. It became Jim Crow, and now it's
Mm.
become this real far alt right type thing. Where anything that an advancement, if we be historical about it, that we make as a people is taken away in about 40 years. you know,
Wow.
we still
Wow.
running around in Egypt, if we be honest, in the desert of Egypt, and part of it is because we start worshiping Egypt instead of worshiping God.
Mm.
You know,
Help
if
us,
we
Holy
be
Ghost.
no, if we I mean if we be honest about it,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
yeah, it, so some of the things that we were taught, it was almost necessary at the time, but the problem of it is you didn't die as quick, but you were still dying.
Inside.
You know, I tell
Hurt.
my young kids a lot of times. I say, hey, because again, we're taught to stuff our emotions.
Yes.
Especially us men, but black women too. Black women gotta be staunch because y'all gotta deal with our crap, and we gotta deal with everybody else's. you know,
Uh-oh.
so, And I tell them, I said, you know what happens with stuff in motion? I said, what happens if you take a water balloon and you keep pouring water in it? They say it gets big. I said, what if you keep on? It bursts. I said, okay. And where does the water go? They go everywhere. I said, that's your
My
emotion.
God.
Eventually, you stuff yourself so much, you're gonna erupt in some form of way, and it's gonna go. It's not gonna be where you direct it. It's gonna go everywhere.
Everywhere. That's a scripture too. What is it? When the root of bitterness settles in, it
Yeah.
defiles many. That's my favorite. I think I say this on like, if not every podcast, every other podcast, because it's so prevalent to what I do as far as it comes to mental health. When a root of bitterness settles in, it defiles many. And what defiles a man is not what goes into a man, but what comes
Comes out.
out of
Yeah.
a man. So imagine that bitterness just settling and just taking root and just making its home on the inside of you. What happens is you begin to take it out on everyone and everything because you don't know how to give that feeling a voice.
Yeah.
You don't even know how to give that feeling a name. And you the first emotion that comes to mind because it feels like a superpower is anger.
Hmm.
Vulnerability feels like weakness. So instead of me just telling you I feel hurt here, I'm a snap
Yeah.
because I was taught not to feel. You understand? So
Yeah.
me feeling pain is strange, it's foreign, it feels weak. So
Yeah.
instead of acknowledging my pain, I'm gonna just go ahead and choose anger because anger feels like a superpower.
Yeah.
Anger is a surge. Anger gets me respect. Anger gets me results until it don't,
Yeah.
or
Well, but
until it gets you the result that you don't want.
exactly. I mean, but it's for a male in particular, we're allowed two emotions. We're allowed happy and angry.
Yeah.
So if we're depressed, we're angry. If we're blue, we're angry. If we're frustrated, we're angry because we don't know how to be frustrated. We don't like if you tell a female in general, "Hey, you're feeling melancholy," they know exactly what you mean.
Yes.
You tell a man, "You feeling melancholy?" What? What's that? We don't. We know
Right.
how to be. We know how to be angry, and you get so after a while, it becomes an automatic response. You don't even have to process it anymore. It's just like, okay, somebody said something I don't like. They looked at me, all this stuff. I remember when I first moved out into the housing projects I lived in as a kid. The first 30 days, I got in a fight every day. I got
Come
in a fight,
on.
but I
You
got in
better
a fight
talk.
every day because I was the new kid on the block, and it got to a point where somebody said, "You want to fight? I hit you."
Yeah.
Because if I don't hit you quick,
Oh
I
my
might hit
God.
someone in. People
Are we
like,
related, sir?
I don't know. Like, it was just like people like, oh, you got a little guy. 'Cause I ain't the biggest guy in the world. You got a little guy. I said, no, I understand opportunity. While you talking, I'm gonna hit you in that mouth. But after a
Listen,
while,
we
you
ain't talking.
yeah, but you start responding to things that ain't worth fighting. Somebody say something about
Yes.
your mom. You don't know my
Yes.
mom. I'm not worried about that. But you become conditioned,
Absolutely.
you know, and
Absolutely.
and that conditioning leads to loneliness at times too. When you, like you said, when you all alone and there's nobody to fight but and the shadows, there's a loneliness that can set in like no other.
Yes, because I I believe one of the reasons is when you're out of touch with what's going on the inside, you're out of touch with yourself. And when
Yeah,
you're out of touch with yourself and anger or whatever your strong suit is, whether it's work, whether it's alcohol, whether it's sex, whether it's money, whatever that thing is that you use to cover up what it is that you're feeling, what happens is those things they start to make choices for you, they start to speak for you, they and they destroy you from
yeah,
within, like from the inside out. And then you're no longer who you are internally at your core. You're no longer that loving person. You're no longer that person that everybody wants to be around. You're no longer whatever or whoever you might be. You're
yeah.
no longer that because your strong suit is present.
Oh
You
yeah,
understand? And when the strong suit is present, it has a tendency to chase everything away.
oh yeah,
Because don't nobody want to be around a person that's an atom bomb.
yeah. Well, especially when you're dealing like with addiction, and one of the things tell people with addiction, I said your DOC, your drug of choice. I said that's your abusive lover. They're like,
Yeah.
what?
Ooh, you better.
I said that's your abusive lover. I said your abusive lover when he come up to you. Especially females get it. I'm like, he don't walk up and do shit. I said, this ain't caveman time. He don't walk up and do, forgive me for my language, but
Oh,
hey, bitch, and smack you and beat you up and make you come on. I said,
yeah.
no. He come up, he gonna tell you the sweetest words you ever heard. Girl, you
Yes.
know, you've been running through my mind. I can't wait to hold you. I said, he gonna whine and down you until
Finesse you.
until that thing happens that upset him. And
Yeah.
then when he hits you, first of all, he's gonna take, oh baby, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I'll never do it again. I'll never do it again. And that changes to look what you made me do.
Yes.
To put the onus on you. And like any other abusive lover, after a while comes the separation of you from those things that would reinforce you and give you strength. It separates you from it. You can't be around your family to say that fool ain't right for you. He don't
Yes.
want you around your friends. If you're making money, he takes your money because he don't want you to be able to get away. And then he starts to work on your psyche. Oh, you ugly. You ain't worth nothing. Nobody likes you. I don't know why I want you anyway. You lucky that I even say hello to you. And if you're not careful, by the time you keep eating all the poison that the abusive lover is giving you, and you still don't get away from them, they'll kill you.
Yes, they will.
Well, your drug of choice does the same thing.
Yes.
And
Ooh,
at
this is so
first, it
good.
makes you feel good, feels like nothing else has ever made you feel until
Yes.
the first time you get sick from it. But then it said, baby, I ain't gonna never do that to you again. And then you believe it. And then you start to believe after a while, well, I got sick from it this time because it was my fault. I took too much, or I didn't eat for this, or I didn't do this. And then all you know after a while, it's all your money is going to your drug of choice.
Yes.
You'll have the choice. It separates you from your family and friends because they don't do those things. If you're doing heroin or something, they don't do those things. You don't want to be around them. If you're an alcoholic, you don't want to be around a sober person, and vice versa. you know. And before you know it, it has you feeling like it's the only thing they care, and they really don't care. And most people,
Mm,
drug of choice will kill them,
yes.
especially if you're looking at
Absolutely.
the fentanyl outbreak here. Um,
Oh my
like I
God,
said,
it's so
the
scary.
resurgence of heroin, crack is still there, meth. I'm like, y'all are trusting people to make drugs for you that I wouldn't let make me Kool-Aid.
My God.
But we'll take that into our veins and stuff, and it's killing us. All because we're trying to usually escape some kind of pain.
Yes, that's it right there.
And whatever that drug of choice is, just like an abusive lover, it tries to take the place of God in your life and will demand your worship and your life as a sacrifice.
Yes. And even more so, what I've learned because of when I was abusing, right? The reason why I became abused, like whatever drug of choice I had at that time, because, it was quite a few, praise God. But whatever drug of choice I had at the time, the reason why I was abusive is because the purpose of the substance is to numb the pain or to
Mm-hmm.
erase the pain or to take you out of your reality. Eventually, the high goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to get high again.
Yep.
Because whatever it is that's in front, I'm talking to somebody, whatever it is that's in front of you is so painful, or whatever you see in the mirror is so disturbing to you, or whatever you feeling on the inside of you is so unbearable that you're in a constant state of escape. And because you're in a constant state of escape, you got to keep tapping into that thing that helps you to escape,
Yep.
whatever it is. At some point, though, that escape turns into your reality and you're no longer in that space of escape. So you got to
One-
get it again. And then what happens is you build what's the word? You build
Tolerance.
a tolerance. Thank you. You build a tolerance for it, or you become immune to it. Now you got to consume more of it.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you become more tolerant and more immune. So now you got to get another grade of it. Okay.
Yep.
And then you become more tolerant and more immune. And now you got to tap into something totally different that's going to give you a completely different feeling.
Yeah. It
That's
becomes.
why drugs have gateways, because after a while, it just don't do it for you. That high that you used to get, that feeling that it just don't give it to you anymore. And you got to keep divulging and going deeper and deeper. And then you sinking down this rabbit hole and you don't even know it. Because the only thing you're trying to do is escape.
Yeah. And like you said, the escape actually becomes the prison.
Man, ooh,
The
you
funny
better.
thing. And like you was talking about the different drugs you start to invite in, it always reminds me of instead of like when a demon is cast out of a person, it goes around to see who else it can get in. If it can't find anybody, it comes back to the person that it was first that was hosting it, and it brings seven of his friends, so that the person will be in worse shape than they were than when he first
than
left.
when they started. Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
and with addiction, you get that at times. You know. So you,
Absolutely. So I want to ask you
mhm.
this word it came to me the other day, and it struck a chord with me because there's so many people that operate in this way. And mind you, when I'm saying stuff like this, y'all, I really don't want you to ever feel like I'm talking down to you. I'm condemning you. I'm trying to make you feel bad. I'm not being what's the word? Oh goodness, what is this word? I'm not better than you. I'm not trying to make you feel any kind of way. But I say things in a certain way so that it could be a wake-up call for you because I want you to become the best version of you. And a lot of times, sometimes you got to get slapped. Somebody got to slap you to wake you up because somebody's real hard headed. Hello,
Yeah.
somebody. So forgive me if you feel any kind of way. My intention is to never hurt anybody or offend anybody. But there are a lot of people that walk around in this mindset called toxic positivity. Toxic positivity. So I want you, when you hear that word, I want you to tell me what you get. What is your definition
Me
of
personally,
toxic? Yes, of toxic
just
positivity.
I've never heard that phrase used that way, but when just hearing the phrase, you know what I think of? The cheerleader syndrome.
Mm,
Yes, yay, everything is great, and I'm not hurting. And you know that thing, that person who, not that life is great, and not that they really feel that way, but they feel like they got to put on the show. They
yes.
have. If you see cheerleaders, they're smiling at all times, even though somebody's flipping them up in the air about 10 feet and they might not land right, but they still got that smile on. So it becomes a point that where people make you, like you said, not talk about your authentic feelings, not to be authentic anymore, because I have to be positive regardless of what everybody does. But that's not true. That's not true at all. When Jesus was in the Garden of Gethsemane, he was not going, "Yay, I'm going to go to the cross." Yes. He was like, "Father, if it be your will, take this cup from me." He was
Come
sweating
on.
blood. But he
Come on.
surrendered to it and said, "If not, but not my will, your will be done."
Even before, not to cut you off, even before that, people miss this part. Before he said that, right when he separated himself from the disciples, he literally fell to the ground and said, I am in so much pain to the point of death.
Yeah.
I have to say that again. I am in Jesus, and now this is Jesus of the Nazareth that we're talking about. He literally said, I am in so much pain to the point of death. To me, that sounds suicidal. To me, that sounds like someone who was hopeless and desperate and in despair and wanted to quit and wanted to give up, but somehow, some way conjured up enough strength and faith to say, but nevertheless, Lord, not my will. He even asked God, Lord, this too much for me. Take it from me.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, not my will, let yours be done. Okay? Nevertheless, not my will, but let yours be done. And this is a sidebar for a lot of people that, misinterpret the word. When the Bible says that Jesus was without sin or he knew no sin. And I know I'm gonna catch backlash for it, but I want the smoke. I'm ready for it. I'm used to it by now. When they said Jesus was without sin, that's what it means. The true essence of sin is the lack of faith that turns into disobedience.
Yeah.
And the reason why they said Jesus was without sin, if we count, God help me. Thank you for thank you for the revelation. If we look at sin from the perspective of behavior alone, then Jesus is already out the window. Why? Because he experienced anger.
Yeah.
He was
People
a
don't talk about
fugitive.
that, but it
He
was
was a
righteous
runaway.
anger.
He was rebellious. The Bible said he learned obedience through what he suffered. That means he wasn't born obedient. He learned obedience through what he suffered.
Yeah,
But
because he put
the
on human flesh. We're,
yes,
we're rebels from the start.
yes.
you know.
But the sin thing was, and he never. lost faith, even if it wavered just a little bit. And that's why he's an example for us. He taught us how to be human.
Yeah.
That you're gonna waver in your faith sometimes. You're gonna get hope. He showed you. He said, Lord, take it from me. He said, Lord, I'm in so much pain, I want to die.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, even though I want you to take this cup from me, nevertheless, not my will, but your will, regardless of, and he probably, not even probably, he went through the worst of the worst of the worst. And he never lost his faith.
Yeah.
That's why he was without sin or he knew no sin because he never lost his faith. That was a sidebar for somebody. Back to this toxic masculinity. I have to let him flow when he flow, and I'm sorry.
You gotta do what you do.
I'm sorry, but back to this toxic masculinity. So go ahead, you have the floor.
Well, no, there's there's things the people don't understand. Like you just said, the hardest thing I think, especially within the Christian realm, is to accept the reality of the word, not the fairy tale, but the reality of the world. There is a righteous anger. Jesus displayed it. He went in there, they was ripping people off in the church. Sound familiar at times?
Hello.
Everything that's old is new again.
Hello.
And he turned over the money table, and he also took his whip and he whipped some heads. And
Yes.
understand, Jesus wasn't 6'5", built like Terrell Owens or nothing. He was a typical Jewish kid, about 5'5", probably 130 to 140 pounds. But he
Soaking
whipped
wet.
some heads a day,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because they had made his father's house what it wasn't supposed to be. Like you
Mm-hmm.
just talked about, he experienced anguish. He experienced frustration when they was asking him, which one of us get to sit on the right hand side? He's like,
Yeah.
haven't I been with y'all all this time? And y'all ain't figured nothing out yet.
Right. That is not
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. So there was all he experienced all emotion, and the hardest part for me was to understand him really experiencing all temptation. That's
Mm.
that means, and this y'all don't it's the same way you said, don't hang me up, people. But
I'm
he
trying to
probably
tell
looked
you.
at Mary Magdalene or some other woman and said, "My daddy did good right there,"
Hello.
but he didn't go and sleep with her.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't say he didn't notice her.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea might have been like, but unlike the fallen angels, he kept it moving. So and like I said, so he shows us that we're going to experience all these emotions. He didn't.
Right.
He experienced everything that we can experience, but there's triumph through your faith in God. When I'm at my quote unquote lowest, I always remember what God calls me. He says,
Yes.
I'm a royal priesthood. I'm set aside. You know, I'm a son of God. And when I
Absolutely.
remember my place, my identity, then those things start to become smaller to me. Not that they're not real, but I can put them in perspective. When you get to
Yeah.
the point where you're gonna kill yourself, it's because you've lost the perspective of who you are, and the things around them. They have become bigger than you. I remember hearing this gentleman on one of his videos. I can't think of his name. He tried to commit suicide. He really tried to commit suicide. He jumped off the Golden Gate Bridge. And he said
Mm.
he was going there and standing there waiting about jumping. And people, instead of trying to talk him off, they're like, "If you're gonna do it, just go on and do it now." And he said he was hearing voices in his head telling him, "You're worthless. No, God don't love you. Nobody love you. Kill yourself. Jump, jump. Just do it."
Wow.
So he said he backed up to the one man that he just knew was gonna maybe stop him, and the man looked at him like, "Big deal." So he said he backed up and took a running start and jumped over. And he said as soon as he jumped over the bridge, all those voices in his head went away.
Wow.
All those things saying kill myself went away. And he said all I could say on my way down was, "God, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I don't want to die. I don't want to die." And God spared him.
My God.
Yes, he was bruised and battered, but he wasn't broken.
My God.
Jumping off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Off the Golden Gate Bridge.
Yeah.
That's a high jump.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
and people don't realize you pick up a lot of force when you go down and hit that water. I don't care how
Yes.
good woman you are, it don't work out well for you. But it
My
just shows
God.
you how when you allow yourself to stay in that dark place or can't be real with yourself and the people around you, how you get to that point and you feel that nobody cares. But sometimes people don't really know how you're feeling because of, again, like you said, the toxic positivity, where you've been on so much that you're just smiling person, you're trying to lift everybody else up, that you don't say, "Hey, I need help."
Yes.
you know. So you try to end it that way, and thank God, The things that get in your head will lie to you and tell you nobody cares, that
Yes.
nobody's watching you, and you never know who's watching you.
Right.
It's not always your family that's touched by you. It may be some kid 3 blocks away that notice you and say, "I want to be like that person."
Right.
And when you thinking, "Oh, nobody cares," that kid cared.
Yes.
Uh,
My God. My God. Okay, so what do you think someone that has that way of being, like that toxic positivity, or as a matter of fact, anybody for that matter, what preventative methods before we get to that space of depression, before we get to that space of despair or even suicide, before that thing becomes so unbearable and overwhelming, how can we navigate? How can we sift through the darkness and try to find solutions or tools to help us in those moments when it just seems like there is no hope?
well, first of all, you don't be afraid of therapy. Now, make
Yes.
sure you got a good therapist. I know some therapists I wouldn't send my dog to. I ain't gonna lie. you know, I don't care what profession you have. There's some messed up people in it. Whether it's preachers, teachers, therapists, doctors, lawyers, there's some messed up people in it because it's made of
Absolutely.
people. There's no profession that's immune to being made up of humans.
Yes.
Sometimes you got to know the source first of all, though, because sometimes the source is organic. It's something, if you have thyroid issues, for instance,
Know the source.
the thyroid issues, which is organic in nature, can cause a lot of emotional problems.
Wow.
A lot of people don't know that, especially like hypothyroidism. It disturbs the sleep. Um, it can disturb your self-image because you can start gaining weight from eating very little, but you gain weight because of the metabolism is not working the way it's supposed to. It can actually bring on forms of depression. Um, any woman that is starting to hit menopause or anything like that, and don't throw things at me again, ladies. But if you're in tune with who you are, you'll notice that you may get depressed more because there's a hormonal
Mm.
change. There is a biological reason for this. I always tell my wife, I said, people forget we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And one little chromosome go the wrong way, and it's totally different outcome. But that's how glorious God is, that He allows us to be born with some form of normality, most of us.
Right.
But there can be an organic reason, a trauma to your brain, even. You're in a car wreck or whatever. That can change your mood and emotion. I know a gentleman um, was coming home from the field bivouac in the military from Army. They'd be out, in the field for a few days, and he came home and he had a wreck. And this was a big old guy, but he was a gentle giant until the wreck.
Mm.
The brain injury changed his personality. And I worked
Wow.
on the brain injury unit for a while, and I saw that happen. You see miracles sometimes though, because I saw a guy come in and the only thing he could say was theoretically for 3 months.
Wow.
But by the time he was discharged in like 6, 7 months, he was able to go back and teach. He was on a cane, but he go back and teach at the university. But so sometimes it's an organic basis, it's a physical basis for our depression and stuff, and that's what helps. You need to make sure that can be taken care of. Uh,
Hmm.
Understanding that your traumas do pile up and can impact you and put you in those dark places, and you got to get them out. Especially those two evil imps, guilt and shame.
Ooh, come
Um,
on.
I tell this a lot of women because what happens to a lot of women, our sons ain't safe, and neither is our daughters.
Hmm.
No, and as much as I hate to think this, I would probably say, and I might be wrong, it might be higher, but I would say 3 out of every 5 women have been touched inappropriately at one point in their life.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And the problem of it is it's a physical act. Okay, stimulus and response. If you stimulate something, it responds. Known basic biological chemistry and physics thing. Stimulus response. What happens a lot of times in the midst of, especially like rape or something like that, your body will respond to that stimulus whether your mind wants it to or not. That's why some people when they're raped
Wow.
because that
Wow.
body responds, you know, and when that happens, First of all, it used to be, especially in the old days. Well, see, I told you she wanted. She started to grind back to me and stuff like that. No, it was a physical response to a stimulus.
Wow.
But what happens to that woman a lot of times is maybe I did want it. Maybe I am just, and they start thinking terrible of themselves. That
Jesus.
trauma will put them to a point where they think that I'm worthless. I have nothing to guilt. I'm dirty, and guilt and shame just jump in the course.
It was my fault.
And it's not. Now I
Hmm.
tell them all the time, you should be able to walk down the street butt ass naked and no one touch you. Now I don't advise you to do that, but you
Right.
should be able to because it is your body. Nobody has a right to it, regardless of what the scenario is.
Hmm. Hmm.
A
Hmm.
lot of women carry guilt and shame around that's not theirs to carry, and
Wow.
they don't know how to hand it over, and no one knows how to help them hand it over. So eventually, it overcomes them. A lot of times, they turn to addiction. They turn
Yes.
to like I said, sex addiction. You hear women all the time. Well, if it's been taken from you, it's not special anymore. Ain't no sense in me keeping it.
Wow.
So something like that can take a person down a very, very, very dark path. You know,
Absolutely.
um, feeling helpless makes a person very depressed. It makes them feel hopeless and not be able to do anything. So that young male that sees mama get her butt kicked by the boyfriend or the husband all the time, and he can't stop it, that can grow into depression for that young man later.
Hmm.
He feel like he
Hmm.
was coward. That was kind of the thing that Will Smith kind of hinted at both before the whole incident with Chris Rock and then afterwards. That
Right.
there was abuse that happened that he couldn't stop, so he made him feel like a coward. I always tell
Wow.
moms, be careful of the lesson you teach your kids because one, it's a male generally instinct to try to protect the women in their life.
The women.
So
Absolutely.
your son is going to go try to intercede with you and whoever, whether it's his dad or whoever. And then when he gets beat or whatever, and that person goes back to that person that abused him, you just made your son feel
Nullified.
like nothing. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
you taught him a lesson, a bad one. You taught him that okay, no matter how much I love you, mom, you're gonna choose this man over me. Not sounding like baby boy, for the
Right.
movie, but
Right. Right.
and actually you're teaching him it's okay for a man to beat on a woman. She's gonna go back to him. So the very behaviors he may be trying to stop, he starts repeating.
Wow.
And your daughters, you teach, well, I'm no better than mama. So if mama can take a butt kicking, I guess I can too.
My
And then
Lord.
again, that brings the emotional damage along with the physical damage, which brings people to the border again of wanting to commit suicide. So it's identifying the real reason why you're feeling it, and then then learning how to let go of stuff that don't belong to you, the
Oh,
guilt and shame
yes.
that belong to you. You know, um, realizing that it's okay if you don't feel 1,000% every day. If you're not having that super positivity, to say, you know what, today, man, I just don't have it. Today, I feel like my walls are closing in on me.
Yes.
It's to have that person or persons that you can reach out to and say, hey, man, can I just talk to you for a moment? And most of all, knowing to talk to God because He answers the phone all the time. We human, we have to sleep, you know. But,
Absolutely.
but knowing that you have that blessed assurance there, but yeah, knowing that you're human and that you can be helped, that it doesn't have to end this way.
Wow.
And
Okay. No, go ahead. If you still have something else you want to say, please feel free.
but,
Okay, so I want to ask you a question because, oh goodness, I don't want to lose my train of thought. Okay. So, okay, here we go. So is it safe to say that usually when a person wants to commit suicide or has suicidal thoughts and ideations, is it because of the trauma or the whatever it is that's going on with them internally is starting to pile up and become overwhelming?
yeah, like I said, it could be from an organic basis. It could be from an illness or something, or you find out that
Right.
you're ill. You find out you have cancer, you have heart disease or lung disease, and they're not giving you a very good prognosis. That takes away your will to live sometimes.
Absolutely.
You get two different type of people. You get the people who learn to like the I forget the country singer sung the song, but live like you're dying. You get those people like, I'm going to make the best of whatever time I got, and you get
Right.
those people who go into despair. That trauma
Mm.
definitely adds up. you know. And the other than just the, like I said, raping thing, bullying. I do a
Yes,
thing about bullying is a lot. I tell people a lot of times you don't know what a person is going home to. You
my
don't
God.
know who's going home to take a butt kicking from their parents. Being in my field, you hear some things that you wish you never heard at times.
I'm telling you,
You know,
it's heartbreaking.
I talked to the state trooper before about family fun night. And I'm like, "What's family fun night?" He said that's when the grandparents, the parents, and the children were getting together watching porn and having sex.
Whoa.
These now, but you don't expect those kids to be normal somewhere along the line. You know, I know the
Wow.
situation where a brother was forced to rape his sister because the parents didn't want her to be a cock tease. These are
Wow.
not made up situations. So sometimes the dynamics that's hitting them in their life is very, very real
Yeah.
and very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like I said, the bullying. My wife, if she was in here, she would tell you she was a victim of bullying. And she said to this day, she can't tell you why. I said, I said, you're a beautiful woman. I'm not just saying that because she was my wife. If she wasn't, she'd still be a beautiful woman.
Mhm.
And you were quiet. And people will mess with you because they want to boost their own ego,
Yes.
putting you down because they don't want to deal with
Yes.
their own fallibility. The big
Yes.
kids around usually have the most problems, but they think if I project it off on somebody else, then it won't be real for me.
My God.
So you get kids who get bullied and stuff like that, and they see no other way out. They don't realize that, especially in high school, these people that they give so much power to, not gonna mean nothing to them in about 5 years. You
Right.
won't see most of them again.
Right.
Uh, but
You
they
won't
can't.
even remember them.
Or if they bully, they remember 'em. I know a lady who I don't know the lady. I take that back. I met her child doing a suicide and bullying seminar, and this girl was fourth grade, I think, and she could tell me who her mother bully was in high school
Wow.
because it impacted mom so much that she still talked about it even once this child came along.
Wow.
That's why you also have to be careful what you do to people because you never know the
How it
damage that you
affects
come.
them.
Yeah,
Yes.
but
And
yeah,
and the trickling effect.
oh yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
But there's so many things that can drive you to the brink of it. I'm not saying that if you even have those thoughts, that make you weak. No, it makes you human.
Yes.
You know, um, things that you look out for though is like that person that been sad for a while. They're about if they all of a sudden seem happy. Sometimes they're not happy because life is better. They're happy because you know what? I finally come up with a plan. I know when I'm gonna do it and how I'm gonna do it.
My God.
And they say my misery is getting ready to be over soon, so they become happy.
My God.
You know, so I mean, suicide is a very, very real thing, and there's different forms of it. Now, I may not pull the trigger myself. I may
Hmm.
go out and rob a store that I know 50 cops stay around and they're gonna shoot me dead
My God.
because I know if I do this, that's gonna be the reaction, and I get to commit suicide with assistance. I don't have to say I committed suicide, although that's what it was.
Jesus, that's deep. Oh, the psyche behind that. That's deep.
Yeah,
Wow. Oh, that's heartbreaking. That's heartbreaking. Okay, so I want to ask you, even though this question it can be geared toward everyone, all of us, I really, really want you to help the men in this area right here. Like, what would you say is the most common reason people, especially men, suppress how they really feel?
it's a learned behavior. We're taught that.
Mm,
Suck
right.
it up. I played football. I was on a wrestling team. I did everything. And when you get injured, you're not really injured. It's just a little pain. Suck it up. Men don't cry.
Yes,
You know,
that's the one right there.
if you're gonna be a
That's the
leader,
one.
you can't show too much emotion.
Nope.
So we're taught to be stoic. So we don't know how we don't know we're supposed to even have these emotions. So when these feelings hit us, we're like, what is this? And I can't let my buddy know that I'm feeling this sad. He might think I'm weak. I don't want him to think I'm weak. Depending on where you live at, you don't want people to think you're a mark. You know,
Right. Right.
so you sucking it up, you toughening up regardless. and you start to believe your own lie after a while that nothing's going to hurt me until something hurts you,
My
and then
God.
you don't have the tools to
And then
deal
you
with
can't suck it up
it.
and deal with it.
Yeah, yeah, and you don't have the
Oh,
tools. You haven't been taught the tools because all you've been taught is suck it up. But when that doesn't work anymore, then what? A lot of times what we'll do is we'll run to the drug then. That'll
yep,
help us. That'll help me
yep,
suck it up.
yep,
But what happens when that don't work? When sex doesn't work? Then
yep.
what? For my brother,
Because
and
it
we got
gets
to realize,
old.
yeah. Well, we got to realize it's okay for us to cry sometimes.
Yes.
There's some things that are going to hurt deep. That it's okay to cry. You lose your mom, you lose, your child, you lose your spouse. Whether it's by divorce, because people don't realize divorce is a death too. you know,
Yes, it is.
if you were a close marriage and y'all get divorced, that's a death. You being ripped back apart.
And it affects you.
Oh yeah.
And
So
sometimes people are so caught up, and I've seen it. People get so caught up in the pride
yeah,
that they can't even heal from the divorce because it's as if they wear a badge of honor. It's like it's a badge of honor. Like I can't. I'm trying to express it, but I feel like I'm not saying it the right way. It's like as if they accomplished something by getting divorced and pretending like, oh, I don't care, or I'm glad, and da, 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 da. But regardless of whether or not the relationship didn't work, at some point there was love there
yeah,
and may still be love there. But because of the pride and the ego, like a person is not even able to heal from the effects of getting divorced because it's like it's you deal with you grieve it. You really
yeah,
grieve the loss of that
yeah,
marriage.
yeah. You have to go through that whole grief process because, like I said, it is a death. It's a death of
Yes.
that union that y'all had.
Yes.
And again, from a male perspective, we're supposed to. Oh, I used to hear all the time the best way to get over somebody is get under, have somebody new get under you.
Yes.
You know, and that doesn't work. If you had true feelings for that person that you lose, that's not going to work. You know,
Absolutely.
so men going to therapy, I don't always agree with Charlemagne, but I'm glad that he really pushes the whole thing about men going to therapy because they need to.
Yes. We need to, we
You know,
all need it. We all need it. Why is it important though? Because sometimes you have something called a blind spot.
yeah,
And when you have a blind spot, that means there's something that's hiding in plain sight, that's operating and it's destroying your life. But because you can't see it and it's your normal, you don't realize it's destroying your life. So it just continues to destroy your life. And it really continues to cause you to self sabotage.
yeah,
So going to therapy, going to a counselor, going to a life coach, going to your pastor, going to someone who is trained in the area of mental health and psychology, it's so detrimental to your life because they're trained to point out those blind spots.
yeah.
They're trained. And a lot of times it's not just by education, they're also trained by experience.
Hmm.
They can identify certain things because they've experienced it first, and then they know what trigger to pull to get that stuff to come up to the surface so that you can be free from it. Sometimes some of us, all we need is one good, real, deep, vulnerable exposing
Yeah,
conversation, finding someone that you can trust to the point where you can air yourself, be naked. I mean, completely naked and not ashamed. And sometimes that's why it's necessary to go to an actual therapist or a counselor because some of us don't have anyone that we can trust that deeply to just expose our entire soul to. I ain't talking about the surface or the mid surface. I'm talking about deep down, ugly, grungy, dirty, nasty, disgusting stuff. That's the stuff that's holding you hostage.
yeah, exactly.
The
I mean,
stuff that's happened to you as a child. That's the stuff that's holding you hostage.
yeah, I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, look, nothing you're gonna say is gonna shock me.
Thank
Nothing
you.
you're gonna say is gonna make me feel worse about you. I said, you know, I'm like, be you. I said, because I'm gonna be me when I deal with you.
I'm trying to tell you.
I said, now if you look for that therapist, that will be now, Quinetta, how are you feeling? That I said, I'm not that guy.
No,
I,
we
you
finna get
know,
it
that's my. I'm
in.
like, I'm saying, I'll be your biggest advocate, but you
Yes,
messing up, I'm gonna be like, what the hell are you thinking?
yes,
You know,
yes,
because
yes.
especially with the youth I deal with, they don't have the luxury of waiting 5 years for self discovery. Sometimes
Mm,
they're at a point where if they don't make changes quick, their next
life is
5 to 10,
over.
15, 20 years, if they're not dead, it's going to be in a penitentiary somewhere.
Yes,
You know, so
exactly.
I deal with them a little different. But those are the kids who usually get referred to me. Those who need somebody to deal with them a little different.
Hard,
You know, yeah.
tough,
But they know that
absolutely.
everything I say to them is really in love.
Yes.
I used to tell my wife, about when it comes to showing love to people. I said sometimes love is this, and sometimes it's a kick in the butt.
Yep.
you know,
Trying to tell you, I believe in spoil the
yeah,
rods. I mean, spare the
yeah,
rods for the child.
yeah,
I
because
surely do.
people like don't raise your voice at your kid. I'm like, okay, so your kid running out in front of a car, you're gonna go, hey Billy, stop, stop, Billy. I'm talking about. You're
Right.
gonna go, hey, get out of the street.
Right.
Sometimes there's such a point of danger. You gotta let them know, hey, this
Yes.
is serious. You don't have time for that. So I kind of mix a version of just regular therapy with a version of life coaching to it too. You
Yes.
know,
That's how I am. That's
because
exactly how I am. It's a combination of both because I don't want to just have this conversation, get in your business, bring all this trauma to the surface, and then let you go on about your business. No, I want to find a solution.
yeah,
How do
like,
we how do we prevent this from happening again? How do we overcome this? How do we navigate through this? How do we how do we come out of this cage? How do we come out of this prison that is in the mind? How do we overcome those internal dialogues that constantly create trajectories for us? How do we there's so much.
yeah. Well, one more thing to the question that you asked, though. Another reason why people suppress their feelings because they've tried in the past to go someone a lot of times within the church or whatever that's supposed to keep their stuff confidential, and people don't. So
Wow.
they're afraid that you said something about their business earlier. I'm like, that's true. People are afraid that their business is going to get out there, and then it's going to cause them even worse problems. If
Right.
your kid, if you most poor white kids kind of grew up the same way. Now, I've come to find out, you keep family business in the family. You don't tell that to nobody because they're gonna tell it to everybody else. They're gonna come take you away and all that stuff. So in order to protect what we think is our reputation, whatever else, we just push everything down and we don't talk to anybody because we're afraid that person is gonna go tell somebody else.
Go tell somebody.
And be honest, there's times I've seen it happen in places that it shouldn't happen. I've seen it happen.
Wow.
So we're like, I can't let anybody know. I can't let anybody
Right.
know I feel this way.
Right. So we could close out with this. I want you to give us something, like something that we could walk away from this conversation with, like a tool, a practice, some homework, something that we can actually apply. What is one thing that a person can do? And I think I need to type this in the chat. What is one thing that a person can do when faced with adversity? What is the one thing that a person can do to navigate through the adversity?
Again, realize that those things that you can handle and some things that you can't. Um, Realize, that when we talk about an addiction field again, we tell them about, having the wisdom of knowing the things that you have control over and things that you're not going to have control over. You're not going to have control over everything, and that's okay. To need
Right.
to need
Wow.
help and admit it that's okay. Don't be afraid to admit you need help. Find you someone before adversity even comes. You need to find that person that when things are may go wrong, that you can talk to them, that they're going to give
Yes.
you godly advice and wisdom without judging you, but just telling you the truth, and that you can lean upon that. I need to get this out, and I can't tell anybody else, and that it's not going to go anywhere other than that. Sometimes that is your therapist. Sometimes that's your pastor or your social pastor. It may be a deacon or somebody else in the church. It may be a little buddy that sits on the corner and drink all day. Some because some of the wisest wisdom you can get sometimes is from places people don't think it would come from.
Absolutely.
You know, one of the truths I know is not from my faith base, but it's the Four Agreements, which was more of a South American religious belief. But the first agreement is let your word be bond. Bond.
Mhm.
Mean what you
Mhm.
say and say what you mean. Or like you
Mhm.
said in New York, word bond, son. Whatever. Uh, the second one it talked about was don't take things personal. It says people will try to cast spells on you with their words, what they say to you, but it only works if you accept them, if you take them personally in. You can poison my food all day, but if I don't eat that food, I'm not going to get poisoned.
Ooh, talk.
You take that poison in. So be careful who plate you eat off of and who you let serve you, who you let feed you their ideas, their thoughts, their words.
Okay, now this is a good one. This is a good one because this is a good. Okay, don't take things personal. But
Mhm.
how does someone who deals with the spirit of offense, how do you get them, or how does one that deals with the spirit of offense apply something like that? Don't take things personal. Because if I deal with the spirit of offense, I'm gonna be like, how?
Well, the thing of it is,
Especially if they're like extremely sensitive or feel very, very deeply. You understand what I'm saying?
yeah.
How do you not take things personal?
Well, the first thing it tells you is you got to realize it's not your problem; it's their problem.
Hmm.
They the one with the problem, not you.
Hmm.
Now, they don't mean that you walk around unaware that somebody may be trying to hurt you. So I'm not saying that. It's at the end of the day, though. A lot of people speak poison into their kids' life. You're never gonna be this. You're never gonna be that, and that child eats that up,
Yes.
and they believe it, ingest it, and then,
Yes.
like you said, whatever you take in is gonna come out, and that child becomes that because they believed what their parents spoken to them was true, or what somebody else spoken to
Absolutely.
them was true. So understand, people are gonna speak negative things into you, at you, but I don't have to eat them. I don't have to take it personal. I don't have to believe it. I don't have to give it space in my life. And it takes practice to do that. Practice to determine what's really real. Now, some
Yes.
people speaking to you is telling you the truth, and you just don't want to hear it.
Right.
You know,
Right. 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 That's called avoidance.
but, and understand that's called learning how to receive wisdom. But
Right.
understand when people want to speak bad, you don't have to take it personal. Don't make assumptions is agreement number three. Don't make assumptions. Don't assume a person understands this, blah, blah, blah. Or people know how you feel. One of the biggest
Right.
things we, especially our guys, make with our women is that y'all know how we feel.
Are we supposed
And,
to know?
and y'all do the same with us. Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
Because, I mean, by nature, to a certain degree, women are more descriptive with things. If you ask a guy, where you been? I went to the store. If we all go to the store, I went to the store. I saw Susie there. She had on the nicest red dress and some nice shoes. There's things that y'all take notice of that we like. We went to the store because
Right.
we don't express ourselves well verbally and stuff like that. But don't make assumptions that people know how you feel or what you're going through.
Yes.
A lot of times with our church people, we think that, well, if you're in church, people should know that you're going through this or going through that. No, they only know what you give them. And then the fourth agreement was do your best,
Mm.
realizing that changes from day to day sometimes.
Day to sometimes moment to moment.
Moment, yeah. Sometimes the best I can do is keep from choking you.
Listen, when I say on everything that
You
is pure and holy.
know, learn how to do your best. And
Oh my
I
God.
use track a lot for analogy when I'm dealing with teenagers. 'Cause I used to run track. I said the fastest I've ever ran a mile was not trying to be funny about the time. It was in 4 minutes and 20 seconds.
Okay.
And they's like, what? I said, yeah, I was mad because I was running a 4 mile relay and the guy got lapped once and he was going to get lapped again. So I just took the time from and ran my mile. I said, he was so far behind, nobody knew that I cut him off a lap. I said,
Wow.
but then there's other times I ran a 450 or 5 minutes. Just do your best.
Just
Whatever
do
you're
your
doing
best.
that day, give it your all, do your best. As long as you know that you didn't leave anything out, that you weren't holding back, do your best. And
Yes.
those four principles will help you through a lot of this life.
Could you
Don't
say them again one more time, just in case somebody missed them?
Okay. First one is, honor your word, basically.
Honor your
Let your
word.
word be bond. Mean what you say and say what you mean.
These are the four
Two,
agreements, y'all.
two, don't take things personal. Don't let
Mm,
people's words and stuff only hurt you if you ingest them. Now their intent maybe is to hurt you, but you don't get to define me. God does.
my Lord.
I don't can't give anybody else that power. So don't take it personal. Three, don't make assumptions. You know, assumptions lead to a lot of misunderstandings and everything.
Absolutely.
And then, like I said, fourth, just do your best, whatever
Just
your
do your
best may
best.
be at that time. And practice for some practices real quick. Practice self affirmations.
Yes. I
Especially
live by them.
well, and again, I don't mean to separate my fellows out from the ladies or nothing, but there's a whole industry that women are bombarded with that only tells them what they're lacking.
Yes.
You know, even to a point of yeah, leaky bladder. you know, uh, you
Right.
know, all this stuff. You know, women.
Right.
And if you ask the average woman here in the United States to tell you five positive things about themselves, sometimes they can't because they've
Yep.
been taught to just concentrate on the negative.
The negative.
So you got to affirm yourself. You know, speak those positive things. Speak those things that God says about you to yourself.
Yes.
You know, like I said, I'm a member of a royal priesthood, set aside, a chosen person. I'm a son or daughter of God. I matter because He says I matter. And no matter what else somebody will say, it doesn't trump Him.
My God.
And if you can keep those things talk, remember to speak those positive things. Call those things that are not as if they were. Those positive things that you may not see that light at the end of the tunnel right now, but you start talking, that light's coming, and it's going to come in abundance. And those things will manifest itself because God promised you that it does. Those are the things that keep you out of that pit. That pit of
Yes.
despair is filled with just demons that want to drag you down.
Yes.
You know, so you get that learning how to speak positively of yourself to yourself is very important.
Absolutely. And I want to piggyback off of that, y'all. This is y'all homework. I'm finna get y'all some homework on tonight. Praise God. You're gonna get some homework on tonight. So this is what we're gonna do. And I know I can't say that. I don't know. But even though this might seem a little bit different, let me say it that way. It might seem a little bit different. I want you to try it. Just try it. Might change your life. For the next 21 days, look in the mirror and tell yourself three
Mm-hmm.
positive things. Why am I not just saying walk around and say it? Or when you remember, why am I specifically saying to look in the mirror? Excuse me, I got choked up. Why am I specifically saying to look in the mirror? Because when you look in the mirror, your subconscious mind cannot register that you are talking to you. Your subconscious mind only registers that someone is talking to you. So it's just like as a child, when if you have ever been told that you're never going to be good enough, or if you have ever been told anything negative, you store it internally and that becomes your reality. It's the same thing with positivity. Okay. So if you look in the mirror for the next 21 days and tell yourself three positive things, watch what happens. This stuff works. Why? Because you're changing your energy. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Okay, let me make it a little churchy. You building your spirit, okay?
Oh yeah.
You building your spirit, man. I'm telling y'all this stuff works. And if you don't know what affirmations to use, you can say something as simple: I am fearfully and wonderfully made.
Yeah.
I am the head and not the tail. I am the apple of God's eye. I am beautiful. I am a peculiar person. I am a chosen generation. I am multi-millionaire. I'm giving y'all different. I'm amazing. I attract all good things. Okay. I'm already who I need to be to obtain what I already have. These are the different things that you can say for the next 21 days. I'm telling you, this stuff works. Okay.
Yeah.
And why 21 days? Because it usually takes 21 days to break a habit,
And
and it
make it.
usually takes 21 days to make a habit. So what
Mhm.
happens is not to say that you stop after 21 days. But what happens is after 21 days of doing this consistently, you start to believe
You
it.
look like you said, it becomes a new habit, and you keep doing it. Then
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And not only does it become a habit, you you'll begin to notice the things that you're manifesting around you, your life. They're all of a sudden you're gonna start to attract different things that you probably wouldn't have attracted before because you're changing your internal being. You're shifting your insides, you're shifting your spirit, man. You're shifting your energy, however you want to say. Okay. All right, y'all. So that's your homework for the next 21 days. Whether you do it or not, that's between you and your Lord. Okay. I'm just the messenger. That's between you and God. I'm not going to check back in. I'm not going to do none of that. If you want to be transformed, you will take heed to what's being said and you will apply it. I was hard headed too. It was a lot of stuff that I was told to do that I was like, I ain't doing that. That sound crazy. What's wrong with y'all? Until I got tired of myself. Until I got tired of running in circles and getting dizzy.
Yeah.
Until I got tired of losing precious people and opportunities. Okay? Until
Yeah.
I got tired of looking around and like, oh, by myself again. Mm-mm. When you get tired enough, trust me, you'll try something. But
Yeah.
instead of just trying anything, try this. I'm
Yeah.
telling you it'll help you. I'm telling you it can work for you if you allow it.
Yeah.
That's the good thing about therapy and Jesus. Jesus does the supernatural while you do the natural. That's why he called us co-laborers. He does the supernatural while you do the natural. It works together.
Oh yeah.
Because as you're doing the natural, if you hit a bump in the road or you hit a brick wall or you hit a space that you I can't do nothing else, that's when he starts to do what he does. Okay? And that's
Yeah.
when the miraculous takes place. I'm telling you what I know, y'all. I ain't just saying this. But I'm not gonna beat you to death with trying to convince you of anything. Now what I want you to do, because all of this information, all of this knowledge, all of this wisdom, it all comes from God. Okay? And you could be a part of his family and receive information on your own without having to seek somebody else if you get in God.
Amen.
And sometimes he'll download something on the inside of you that no one has heard before. But you got to get in God. So I'm going to open up the floor for someone tonight that has not received Christ as your Lord and your Savior. I'm not asking you to do it because I'm asking you to do it, but I'm asking you to do it because it will change your life in ways that are unimaginable. I'm telling you. And I'm not talking about the God that the people in church talk about that's going to send you to hell because you make a mistake and because you're human. No. I'm talking about the God that's going to love you in spite of your humanity.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the God that is going to coddle you and cater to you and once you're mature enough begin to progress you and dust you off and make you new and transform you. I'm telling you what I know. Why don't you just say yes? Stop fighting. Stop. Somebody told me that one day. You fighting God. What does that look like? How does that even look? How you fight God? Listen, stop fighting. Today's your day. Tonight is your night. Welcome into his family. If you want to be a part of his family, I want you to
Amen.
repeat this prayer after me. Mr. Solomon, if you could please help me by repeating,
Will do.
that will really be great. Lord Jesus,
Lord Jesus,
I believe in my heart.
I believe in my heart.
I confess with my mouth
I confess with my mouth
that you are my Lord and my Savior.
that you are my Lord and my Savior.
I believe you died for my sins
I believe that you died for my sins
and rose on the third day.
and rose on the third day.
I receive you now.
I receive you now.
I am now in the family of God.
I am now in the family of God.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. It's just that simple, y'all. It really ain't that deep. I mean, it's deep, but it ain't that. Y'all get what I'm trying to say, right? Okay. So, what do you do now? You just keep walking. It didn't take 24 hours to become who you are. It's not going to take 24 hours to unbecome everything that you know that has made you who you are.
You have
Give
to daily
yourself,
die.
yes, it's a daily, moment to moment, sometimes journey, okay? Give yourself a break. Be gentle with yourself. Find yourself a church, a community that's going to love you for real, that's going to lift you and not pull you down, that's going to tell you the truth and not feed you lies. And most of all, no matter what anybody has to say about you or what anybody has to think about you, you just keep shining. I love y'all, but God loves y'all best. Good night.